So, hello everyone, and welcome to our episode 2 of Change Management in 20 Minutes podcast. So, together with Ceren, today we are going to be responding one of the questions that we got from our first episode. Actually, the question was asked by Serdar. So, Serdar, thank you for inspiring us to talk about this important part. And the question was, what are the key steps of change management initiative in a company? So together with Joanne, today we decided to continue speaking on that. So Joanne, how are you? Do you already have your vacation mood? Have you packed your
Yes,
cases already?
yes. There are some stuff in my living room right now, lying on the floor, waiting to be put inside the cases. But anyway, I am on the vacation mood, and I am very on the episode mood as well. So yeah, so let's say hi to everyone who is joining us or who is watching the recording afterwards. Thank you for joining us. And I'm on the mood. Yes.
Yeah, thank you everyone who joined us today or will be joining later when listening to the podcast. And Jaren, you sound like a very good planner because even if you are going to have vacation soon, you still have found some time to talk about the change management in 20 minutes. So my first question would be, Jaren, how do you think, what are the key steps in change management plan, including, for example, readiness assessment, which is like we both know is a very important part of the initiative?
Yeah, just like planning for a vacation, planning for a change is very important, and you need to be very much organized. So first of all, you need to have a readiness assessment and see if everyone, like stakeholders, the people in the organization, and who is will be in fact impacted from this change is ready. Organizational readiness assessment is the key. And then according to that assessment, you will have some results. Then you are going to develop a plan. So planning is the next step. So developing a change management strategy, putting your communication material, like your vision and your key messages you would like to convey, and then plan for training and support because people may need training and support. Employees and leaders may need support as well. Don't think that they know everything. They may need it as well. And then when you have a nice plan and you cross-checked everything, then you will have the implementation phase. So execute the change management plan and regularly monitor with some surveys and some pulse checks and everything to see if it's working and people understand everything and they have any concerns, and then control the progress. And the fourth step is sustainment. So sustain the change, reinforce the change, evaluate the learnings and outcomes, and make it better next time or make some changes. So this is what comes to my mind. Do you have anything else in your mind? And which stage do you think is the most important?
Well, yeah, thank you for sharing that. I think you covered like the main parts of any change management initiative. Uh, what are the most important parts here? Well, this is a really good question. I think my answer is everything is important, right? But maybe when it comes to change management, probably it's all about assessing the readiness and also all about planning. So the more you plan, the better the transformation will be. So I think it's definitely assessing the readiness and planning. So if we're talking about assessing the readiness of the organization, this is a very interesting part. It has to do with a lot of things to do, right? So uh, could you please describe what is actually the readiness assessment, Jiren, and why is it so important for the success of our job as change managers?
Readiness assessment is like if you have a tool, of course, it is better. But if not, you will have some couple of surveys and you will have one-on-one meetings with stakeholders and everyone. And then you will evaluate how prepared the organization is for the change. And you will focus on organizational culture. If culture is ready and if people are keen to changing regularly, if they are not afraid of change or they may be afraid of change and understand the reasons behind it. The change history, because sometimes organizations are tired of changing. There is change tiredness, unfortunately, usually in some organizations when the things are rapidly changing. And you will understand the change history, what they have been gone through so far, and what were the main topics to be covered when you handle another change. And stakeholder readiness, you will get together with your stakeholders. As I said, you can have like one-on-one meetings, focus group sessions, some surveys, and then understand what's going on there. And then check your resources. Usually companies forget it. And not only the money, but also the time and human resources is important when you are handling a change and trying to understand if you are going through a change, what should be done. So this is important. It identifies the potential obstacles and resistance, and you can have some proactive strategies to increase the chances of having a nice and successful change in the organization. So this is what comes to my mind. Do you have like anything to add to this or anything to focus on?
Yeah. That sounded definitely like a lot of things to do. Yeah, in my practice, only this readiness assessment stage with different customers might take from 3 weeks, like for the smallest companies, and up to several months. So I can imagine how much work is that. And yeah, if you ask me about anything to add, I will definitely add, because it's not only about how a change manager structures his or her way to assess the readiness. Also, there are some international life hacks and best practices that we can think of, including, for example, depending on the methodology of change management, different aspects of organizations should be assessed. For example, there is this methodology called Project Management Institute Organizational Transformation. And this methodology suggests that the change manager should focus on 4 main aspects to understand the readiness. First is people. Second is structures the company has. And also third is technology. Technology-wise, are we even ready? And fourth element is actually assets. So within each of them, there are also different components to be assessed. Also, we all know this very widespread methodology from ProSci, professional science, right? So ProSci is specifically focused also on adding sponsorship support assessment. I think you can agree, sponsorship support is so much important for any change. So without it, it's just not possible.
Yeah.
Also, ProSci adds some risk assessment to there. So there are even some typical risks for any transformation, and also definitely there are some risks that are specific for the organization or for the economy sector. And last is but not least, there is also the Association of Change Management Professionals methodology, or ACMP methodology. So they suggest to focus on demographics of different stakeholders, because usually each transformation and change effort would have a lot of stakeholders. They are so different. They have their own interests, own resistant types, and many other things that are unique. So that's why ACMP suggests that don't ignore that the demography of your people in the organization is very different and diverse, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, so with that, I would like to actually ask you, Ceren, for example, based on this, do you have any suggestions for our podcast guests? How can an organization effectively conduct a readiness assessment? What is the secret to that?
So it's like, as you said, it's not an easy process. First of all, I need to say they are not alone. If they are not able to do it by themselves, they need to get help from professionals. There are some professional companies who are able to do it. Of course, they can study and try to do it themselves, but they need to get support if that's not possible. So this is the one thing I need to say. And then together with those companies, they can get together and define the scope and objectives, like clarify the goals of the assessment. How are we going to assess? What is our goal while we are assessing this company and its structures, stakeholders, etc. And then gathering data is important, using surveys, interviews, focus groups, as I said, or like get some documents if there are already some documents in the HR department, for example, or in different stakeholders. They may have some documentation that they already maybe did the same assessments in the past, and then analyzing the findings and identify just basically getting the SWOT analysis, I can say. Just understand the strengths and weaknesses and the risks, threats in front of you. And then develop some recommendations is the fourth step, like providing actionable insights and a readiness plan. And for this plan, like you don't have to have everything on the plan in the first day. Just know that it's something that is changed throughout the time when you get more feedback from the organization. But you need to have a structure, first of all, while starting. And then communicating the results is very important. So when you do surveys and you don't share what you have found to the organization, then people may think that what they have told to you, what they have tried to explain to you is going to the space, floating through the space, and no one is getting them. So share the findings with stakeholders, adjust the change management plan accordingly, and also bring them to the table, bring them to the game when you communicate the results. This is what I can say. So, I mean, it's not easy, but it can be done.
It's not.
And they can get some type of help from professional companies like yours, for example, to be able to do this. So, at this point, I have a question for you, Yuliya. So, how do you think that are the challenges? What are the challenges of readiness assessment, making readiness assessment, and how it affects the companies?
Well, sincerely speaking, Ceren, I so much like your suggestions because they are so practical. These are like the recommendations that any listener of our podcast can just get to their company and try to do it in the best way they can. Unfortunately, usually companies are very much enthusiastic about starting the change, and they, for some reason, forget that they need to understand whether they're even ready for that. That's why, in response to your question, Ceren, I would like to mention a couple of challenges that are there if the company does not treat the stage of readiness assessment right. So first of all, this is, of course, inadequate risk assessment. I think this is typical for any country and any company to be kind of over enthusiastic about starting new things, and they forget that each new thing sometimes can be a lot of risks, right? So when we don't pay attention to the potential risks, we are not ready for them, and this might become the reason why the transformation fails finally, right? Apart from that, I would also I especially liked your suggestion about communicating the results properly to people. This is also what many companies do. After assessing the readiness, using some special consulting companies or even their own resources, they just don't communicate those results. But people who are asked, they are waiting for the results because they are part of the company. So if we do not communicate the results of our findings about the readiness assessment to the stakeholders, this can correspondingly cause a lot of issues. For example, I don't know, resistance, right, which will definitely be there. But if we don't communicate the results of change assessment, then there will be more resistance. And of course, the communication should be not only considering the transparency, but confidentiality issues. We don't usually say who said what, right? It would be funny and, of course, unethical. Yeah. So there are a lot of ethical considerations that need to be there when communicating the results. And also choosing the wrong communication channels matters. This is also a problem. If you have some, I don't know, sensitive stuff to communicate, then it should be some confidential channels. Also, everyone should be on the loop about what's going on in the organization on the transformation part and readiness assessment. So it's important. I would suggest work with the communication specialist in the best way you can, dear podcast leaders and listeners, right? And number three challenge that I would mention is, of course, a low representation of data. Well, together with Ceren, we sometimes, when we conduct the readiness assessment, we face the problem that not every employee thinks that it's important to, for example, fill in the survey or take part in the interview. Or they might have some other reasons. For example, they didn't have enough time or they didn't check their email by the deadline. And this is what gets us to low representation of data. Too small amount of people ask questions and answer questions, and this is a problem for any change readiness assessment, right?
Yeah.
So this is my view on that. What would be your take, Ceren, on that? Can you add something to the challenges of readiness assessment?
The thing is, like when you were talking about low representation of the data, one thing came to my mind, and also you said there should be some ethical guidelines while you are doing this and communicating this. People may be afraid of their answers will be caught and who said what. So sometimes in certain cultures, in certain companies, when they have too hierarchical culture, let's say, people may try to put a finger on a certain comment and try to find who did it,
Who is
said
that? Who did that?
who did that. So being anonymous and staying anonymous is the key, and trust is important when you are doing it, like trusting the company and trusting the employee. No one will be checking who did what, who said what, but just focusing on the results. That would lower the risk. And on the other side, when you check the assessment, for me, the main risk is in the answers, like it's hidden in the answers of the assessment. So you will see there the change resistance and who may resist, like how can a resistance may pop up and how you can solve it. So I think resistance will be there. So resistance is the main risk of everything, I can say, change resistance.
That's right. You know what? I think change resistance management sounds like the next topic for our next episode. What do you think, Ceren?
Yeah, I think we can do it. Yeah, that's a very important topic for me. I mean, every day, almost every day, all day, you are thinking about it because you are trying to get away from that resistance mindset and make everyone wanting and wishing to be changing, not themselves, but the environment and the business. So it's important. We can do it.
Yeah, so sounds like a good plan, actually.
Yes.
So yeah, with this, I would like to thank you, Ceren, and thank myself for this important session of Change Management in 20 Minutes podcast today. If you are listening to this, then thank you for following us. Thank you for deciding to raise your awareness about the change management profession. So the topic of the next episode is going to be the resistance management. So keep up with us. Be in the loop on the communication, and see you in some next episodes.
Okay, see you.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.